Hello everybody, welcome along to another Q&A special here on the Benjamin Bloom Football Channel. I have loved doing these through this close season. We're going to try and keep it going in some way, shape, form or fashion in the normal season. Time been permitting, maybe like once a month, I don't know, once a fortnight. You tell me what you want, but it's been absolutely brilliant. No preparation needed. I'm going completely off the cuff. I have seen the first 1, 2, 3, 4 questions because that's what's opened up on the screen in front of me when I went into the community tab post. But if you're new to this and you've missed the deadline this time, just ask away, ask anything, football, life. And I've got to say, some of the life questions are the ones that have been the most rewarding for me, and maybe even for audience as well. I've always seen myself as just a football fan waffling on about football, giving their opinion, but it's gone a bit deeper, and I've been absolutely loving it. One thing I will say right here, right now, it's 28 degrees outside. I'm in the garage office. I will start to sweat now, and I'll probably look a lot different. These often go over an hour, don't they, these Q&As, so bear with me. Let's get in to the questions. First up, Johnny here. Would you like to play a football match using the 1860s rules? This is where I should look at them beforehand. I don't know what the rules were in the 1860s of football. So I will answer that by saying I will happily watch a football match played under 1860s rules. Are they offsides? I don't know. Still 11 versus 11? Not very well up on the history of the laws going back to 1860. So no, I will play spectator on that, Johnny. Richard, what is your favourite musical chord? Do you have a particular style of melody you go to when you jam? I loved your musical tribute you did many moons ago. Will we ever be blessed again on this channel to see and hear you play again? My favourite musical chord. Whenever I sound check, it's always D. I don't know why. Any musician will relate. Just when you put the instrument on or sit down. I could say something floral like the James Bond chord, which is a minor chord with a 9, but then with a sharpened 7 as well, which is, the chord at the end of James Bond, it's got its own name, but no, I'm far more simple than that. So I'll say D is my favourite chord. Do I have a particular style? When I jam or have to do a solo, I'm not the greatest, to be honest. I prefer more chordy based things on the piano rather than. There's this guy called Carl at my college. He's really good, actually. Played with Professor Green and Boy George latterly. He was a really good jazzer and could fly around a solo, whereas I was a bit more chordy kind of pop guy. And we will be blessed to see, I don't know if it's a blessing, on the channel. Never say never. Remember, we live in the incredibly siloed world of algorithms at the moment. So if you spend your entire time talking about football on your YouTube channel and then you do something musical for a video, it doesn't get pushed to the right places, and I frankly don't have the time to have a separate channel doing musical stuff, but plenty of ways to scratch my musical itch at the moment. Thank you, Richard. Acquittal. How do you see your career progressing and what are your career goals? That's a great question. It's a very humbling question that you would possibly care. I am so content at the moment, and that's probably means there's bad news coming down the road, doesn't it? I'm so content with what I'm doing at the moment. So we've got the YouTube thing here, which kind of covers a chunk of a salary, but not really a whole salary in terms of my mortgage and looking after Enid as well, and food and bills and whatnot. But I've always said that's a privilege. I walk to my garage and talk about football every day. It's brilliant. Doing plenty of musical stuff actually now. If you're not aware, I'm involved in That's So 90s, which is a tribute to the music of the 1990s. So hopefully that will build up, and I'm still do a tiny bit of teaching, accompany a choir and do some bits just over the road at the retirement village over there. So I'm more than content at the moment, but anyone who's been I've been self-employed for like decades now. Is pretty much, I can't remember not being self-employed in fact, it's been so long. And what you do know about being self-employed is that it has seasons. Nothing lasts all that long. And God, you take your book of work and what you were doing from 5 years to the next 5 years, and it can be completely different. So I'm sure there'll be change coming down the road. In terms of the actual core stuff, though, if it was just still that I did YouTube, I mean, God, we've been doing it properly now for probably since into the pandemic, 4 or 5 years. So maybe do another, if I could survive another 5 years of that, depending on changes in technology, and that would obviously presumably build up the audience and therefore the revenue. So, hopefully, I suppose lots of other jobs you get a little pay rise every year, don't you? But YouTube can hopefully track upwards nicely. And the stuff with the 90s show, I do have an interest in that as well in terms of the running of it. So I'd love to see that pick up. And I'm very much in the point in my life where my career is secondary to Enid and Shaylee and family life. So my career goals are very different than 10, 15 years ago, where I would have done anything for my career, gone anywhere. Whereas now it's like, if I get a good career opportunity, but it's going to stop me seeing my daughter grow up, don't really want to do it, to be honest, unless it's a jaw-dropping amount of recompense that would then change Enid's life on the back end, or my life. But what the hell's that going to be? But I'm very happy that basically for 20 years I've been a self-employed musician, a piano teacher, a performing musician, a YouTuber. It's not gone badly, and I know lots of people optimize. God, I remember talking to someone who remained nameless once, who said that their brother was looking at these jobs, and all they did was told me what the salary was for the jobs. And it's kind of like, you're not really winning in life. You need to optimize for your happiness and your balance in life, not just what's going to make me the most money. But each to their own. That's just my take where I am at my age in my life. So yeah, they're my goals, and they're fairly straightforward. What I do know, as I said, about self-employed life is something will come and throw a grenade into that, or something will change, or something will come up. It always does. Vindaloo, great series, Ben. Leaving my bias at the door, so it's not about FIFA or PSR. What are your favourite football-related tunes? Mine is Serious Drinking's Love on the Terraces. I've never heard that. And like The Beautiful Game, they were much better when you saw them live. So I often get asked about football actual themes, so I won't answer it that way. But it's not really a football song, but let me go with Nessun Dorma. For many people my age, it's just all about Italia 90, and that's where we all fell in love with football and Gascoigne and watching it on telly. And then the theme tune was Nessun Dorma on BBC, wasn't it? And there's something magical about Pavarotti going and hitting that high note at the end, and they did the live performance and the passion in his face. So I will go Nessun Dorma. Who's it by? Puccini? I don't even know who wrote Nessun Dorma. There we go. Vinyl SX 92. Favourite beach in Suffolk? I love Southwold personally. Oh, that's a good question. I mean, for reasons of me being a teenager, when we first got cars and stuff and were able to go out, you would start to go to the seaside, and we'd go to Felixstowe, which is not anywhere near as posh as Southwold, but you could drive there from Ipswich in, I don't know, I guess 15, 20 minutes or something. You'd go over the Orwell Bridge in the days where there were no speed cameras on there for years now. Living where I live now, I have no reason ever to go over the Orwell Bridge and up to Felixstowe or Woodbridge up there. Nice posh parts of Suffolk, if there is such a thing. Don't clip that bit out. So Felix, though, for the memories. But yeah, Southwold is lovely. Oldborough. Is that the place where everyone queues up for fish and chips? I think it is. Right. Simon. Hi, Ben. Love your shows and insights. Have you always had long locks and ever thought of going SBA sides? Is that short back and sides? I'm going to do something now, purely so, and I'm not picking on you, Simon, purely so I can post this under comments about my hair, because I've never ever addressed it on the channel. And you probably think it's not important. No one cares about your hair, Ben. Oh, they do. They really, really do. And I know Simon's kind of smiley face there, and he's having a laugh, and he's been pretty polite there. But my channel, I'm lucky enough to have had millions of views over its duration, which means tens of thousands of comments. And a lot of them have been about my hair. And I mean, there's a lot to say about this, because there's the motivation of the person saying the thing. There's how I receive the thing as well, and the kind of significance of that. But it does get exhausting. I promise you, it does get exhausting. I remember listening to the excellent podcast I would recommend with Richard Osman on. Osman? Not Osman. Donny Osman. Osman. The Rest is Entertainment, and Marina Hyde. And they were talking about trolling. And he's obviously incredibly tall and looks a certain way. I forget the words he used. But he said when somebody has a thing about them, they know they don't need to be told. They might be insecure about it. And obviously it's different being tall than growing your hair longer. It's my choice to grow my hair longer. As Simon says, I could have short back and sides. I did have short back and sides. What I would say, no offence everyone, unimaginative, boring haircut right the way through until I started to join bands and in my early 20s be a touring and performing musician. And I didn't have a lot of confidence before then. And I've had my teeth fixed up since then. I had horrible teeth, never had a girlfriend. No one looked at me. I was completely unextraordinary. And then all of a sudden, I went on a stage and played a musical instrument, not even a guitar, anything cool. And I didn't sing at that point. And I grew my hair out a little bit. And all of a sudden, the zero attention I'd ever had from the female gender, it started to change. And I know some of it's completely fake when people they're just interested when you're on stage as a performer. But the hair thing wasn't. And all of a sudden I realised if I grew my hair out, it went curly. And if you've ever, I know we don't have that many women subscribed to the channel, but say your missus has got done up for a wedding and had her hair done, they'll pay someone a hell of a lot of money to stand there for like 2 hours and do exactly this to a girl with straight hair. So I kind of realised that I'm 5'8" and not very extraordinary looking, but if I grew my hair out, it gave me some confidence. It gave me something, you know. Oh, that's the guy with the with the long, he wears his hair long. That's his thing, and that actually was quite important to me. I know it's kind of a feminine thing here. No bloke ever, well, rarely. Only other blokes with long hair compliment me on my hair, but sometimes at my very worst, and I'll talk about how I receive comments rather than how they're intended in a minute, but sometimes at my very worst, I've been known to snap back to people commenting on my hair and say, more women in the last month have commented on my hair and said nice things about it than have said anything nice about you in your entire life. You know, wouldn't that be a fine thing? And again, it's not because they find me devilishly handsome. It's just because they appreciate good hair because, as I say, it does tend to skew more a feminine trait. But no, I just wanted to address that it is exhausting. And you'll often get comments saying, really just arsehole comments. That Simon's one isn't, but saying, get a haircut. You need to cut your hair. And I do think some of it is, and I don't want to be mean, some of it is just not very intelligent, narrow views of the world, where to some people, the idea, they've never grown their hair out, they never would. They wouldn't do that, would they? You have a short back and sides all your life, don't you? And that narrow view means it is incomprehensible to these people to understand what it's like to have long hair. If you've had long hair for 10, 20 years, it's like, well, you're the ones getting your hair cut all the time. You're the one changing what would naturally be your appearance. But what you're going to do? But it is still a comment on my appearance. And look, sometimes people are really spiteful. They call me like the horrible things I've been called, like a sweaty gyppo, a messy homeless tramp or whatever. So just horrible, horrible, unkind things. I think it's the, do you know what? I think the get your hair cut, just the blunt thing of, I've taken a look at you, I don't like your appearance. Your appearance triggers me. Therefore, because I'm triggered, I need to ask you to change your appearance to make me feel better. And I'm going to make you feel really crap about yourself when I say that. And this is where we kind of get into motivation and where we get into empathy or lack of therein. Because I'm sure the majority of people who make a comment about my hair don't have any malicious intent whatsoever. And they just think it's a little bit of a laugh. Oh, that guy's got long hair. That's as far as the brain to fingers ratio kind of goes. And they don't mean anything by it. But we get the empathy conversation and the motivation versus how it's received. So if I'm having a really good day, I feel really great. I'm feeling good. I've eaten. I've slept well. I might have been to the gym and I'm feeling good. The sun's shining. Everybody's happy. Enid's gorgeous. Shaylee's gorgeous. Life is good. Something's on the TV tonight that I'm excited about watching. And someone says something about my hair and I see that comment. I'm like, whatever. Ignore. However, if I'm not feeling 100% and somebody makes even what to them is an innocent comment about my appearance and my hair, I find it quite hurtful. And it's not the single individual comment. There have been thousands over the years. And yes, part of me thinks, you've got interesting hair, Ben. People comment on it. Enjoy it. But it's like that. Imagine a sheet catching a drip of rain. Just a drip of rain every day. 1 year, 2 years, 3 years. In the end, that sheet is going to be full of water and it might burst. And every now and then, I do tell someone, go F yourself. Who the hell are you to be commenting on my appearance? And I know I shouldn't do that. And subscribers get a bit shocked. They're like, Ben, calm down, But it's the difference in life between how something is intended and how something has been received. And take the spiteful comments out of it. You'll all learn this if you're in relationships, that it doesn't matter if you think what you said is either right or funny or factually correct. If you say it to somebody and it makes them feel a negative way about themselves, then you need to take ownership of the fact you've done that. And that's the empathetic thing to do. So in my wild fantasy, everybody would have enough empathy. So instead of, oh, that guy's got interesting hair, it goes, oh, that guy's got interesting hair. stop, 2 seconds. Oh, I was going to put a comment about that, but do I really need to do that? I'm sure he knows when he looks in the mirror that he's got interesting hair. And maybe other people comment on it all the time, and maybe it gets a bit tiresome, and maybe he gets some very unkind comments, and maybe all of the comments get piled into one, whether they're unkind or, I'm sure, like Simon's one there, it's completely innocent, just having a laugh. And look, I'm on a good day today. I'm not going to get stroppy or cross about it, but it is something that's got me down, because I don't know what the number is, but either every day or every second day on YouTube, someone will make a comment about my hair, just relentlessly. So I've raised it now. As I say, I'm sure 90% of them, and this is an internet thing as well, because it's very flattering. People think that they know me, and therefore they banter with you like they're your mate. But a lot of people I've never met, and I never will meet, and as much as it feels like there's a closeness, they know way more about me than I know about them. I don't even know what they look like. Maybe they wouldn't comment on my hair if I knew what they look like. Maybe they're bald. Maybe they've got terrible hair. And, not to make light of baldness, because I've just gone off on a big rant about not commenting on people's appearances. But maybe that is the motivation for some people. Maybe the triggering issue is their own appearance rather than mine. So it could be a multitude of things. But sometimes those barriers drop down, and we're working on that as a species, aren't we? Since the internet has come along, how can we communicate? Can we do it in a civil and calm way? And when you don't see somebody's face, so if somebody says something, about my hair, they don't necessarily see me go, oh, for F's sake, again, and be in a bit of a mood with my missus for the next 10 minutes. They don't see that. Whereas maybe if they saw that, they'd go, oh, sorry, mate, I didn't mean anything by it, just having a laugh, and then it would all be done. So it's a weird old situation. But look, I've raised it now. I've discussed it. I've never done this, but as we've said on the Q&A streams, there's been a lot of therapeutic things for me. And what I will do is I'm going to clip that out, and in future, if I get comments about my hair, I will post that underneath. And I always say, I do believe in the whole thing that free speech, all good, it has a consequence. And sometimes if you don't apply the right amount of self-awareness and empathy to stuff you say, the consequence is, for no real gain of your own, you might make somebody feel a bit crappy. And it might not be the thing you said. It might be the accumulation of things, many, many things, many, many people have said that makes that person feel a little bit rubbish. So there you go. I finally addressed it. What are we going to call that? I'll find a pithy title of calling something about the obsession with my hair. But let's move on. And I'll take a drink. Hi, Ben. F. Mogger. What was your first memory game of football, and why did you start supporting Ipswich? Keep up the great work. My first game I went to live was, I get asked this quite a lot actually, you might have heard before, Ipswich versus Wolves at Portman Road, and it was 0-0. How about that? That was setting me up for a life of entertainment with Ipswich, wasn't it? And in terms of why I started supporting Ipswich, is very interesting, because a lot of people know my wonderful father grew up in Diss, which is halfway between Ipswich and Norwich, and is a Norwich City fan. So is Uncle Richard as well. And I had a choice to make. I did, because obviously when I was 10 years old, Norwich finished third in the Premier League. But as soon as we got to high school, pretty much everyone supported Ipswich. And then, oh, Mum, Dad, can I go to a game? Can I go watch Ipswich? And then you're in. You're in from that point onwards. So, yeah, that is the short history. The first goal I saw, I think, was scored by Ian Marshall for Oldham. This is all around circa 1990, I think, at Portman Road. Jamie. Phil Neumann. has come in to Birmingham. All the talk has been about further up the pitch with the signings of Gray, Furuhashi and Tommy Doyle. But how do you feel about our defence with Neumann and Clara? Should be really, really good. I think the reason people talk about the players at the top of the pitch for Birmingham, and this will always kind of be the case, is that they're the ones where you're relying on individual quality, isn't it? Whereas with someone like Chris Davies managing, the defence, it's not down to head it, kick it, John Terry, heroic Terry Butcher style defending or whatever. It's down to controlling where the game is played on the pitch, where you can squeeze, and controlling possession of the ball. So Birmingham's brilliant defensive record last year was very different to Wrexham's brilliant defensive record, because Wrexham gave up the ball and did head it, kick it brilliantly, whereas Birmingham just controlled games. I do think they'll still be able to do that up in the Championship, Birmingham. I think the pattern of play is going to be significantly ahead of many others. We're talking 10 new managers starting out in round one at the start of August. I've said that to a lot of Birmingham fans. Make hay while the sun is shining at the start of the season. But this will always be the case. I think that's the reason why people are more interested. I mean, look, Damari Gray's a superb story as well, isn't it? With with the return to the club. Furuhashi, I mean, it's just these players come in, who are Asian players. It's just so brilliant and exotic, and the press over there are so interested that just opens up a whole new fun narrative. And Tommy Doyle, everyone knows they've been very, very high on. That's a player with a real good track record in Premier League and at the top of the Championship on that loan with Sheffield United. So, yeah, I think that would be the reason why the discussion is that way around. Liam, I think, has got a question about Birmingham as well. With the investment Birmingham and Wrexham have been getting, can you see both clubs getting promoted to the Premier League, and how would they do in the Premier League? That's a hard one, because we've had plenty of clubs that have had money in the Championship, and I suppose Birmingham feel a little bit like Wolves did under Faux Sun in whenever it was, 17, 18, Wolves went up. I think I'm right in saying that. God, it's just got a bolt from the brain that Diogo Jota, who so sadly died last week, was obviously playing in that very team. It's tragic, isn't it? Tragic. But Birmingham feel a bit like that Wolves team, but that Wolves team, PSR wasn't quite as advanced then, and Wolves just bloody breached through it, didn't they? I think they lost 50 million quid in that season, but they were up, out of jurisdiction. In comes the Premier League money, 3-year rolling loss limit, bish bash bosh, out of sight, out of mind. Whereas Birmingham, obviously, there's far more scrutiny now on spending, and figures being put out and benchmarking for what you're going to spend during the season. That will all be being submitted to the EFL. And Birmingham say, right, we're projecting to lose 50 million this year, like Wolves did. I think the EFL might have something to say about that. In terms of Wrexham, it does feel like Birmingham have got more to play with. It feels like they've got more to play with than everybody, but than Wrexham. And I think the thing is that Wrexham was such a big fish. Wrexham were what Birmingham were in League One, in the National League, and I suppose in League Two. And I've got to admit, Wrexham were amazing in League One, weren't they? That's a hell of a promotion to go right through. That shows you about momentum in football. So I think they'll have it harder. I think both sides will have it hard. You can't ignore the possibility of, just with what Birmingham are doing, that they could just keep going and go through either this year or next year. But sometimes teams get stuck. Stoke have got more money than God as well with Bet365, and they've just got themselves into a rut. And hands up in the comments, who thinks Stoke will finish above Birmingham next season? Probably nobody, but that's where we are with both sort of clubs. So yeah, that would be my take. Sammy, do you think the quality of football and tactics has improved in the Championship over the last 20 or 30 years, or stagnated? Charlton fans have only been in it a few of these seasons, but it feels like general trend EFL towards 3 centre-backs, 2-3 defensive midfielders, big lump up front who's just physical and quick. Felt like 75% or more League One teams played with a variation of that last season. You're going to be in for a surprise, Sammy, because it has evolved. And I always think the season is 2018-19. Because the season before that, okay, we just mentioned Wolves, didn't we? They were pretty defensive and very good at getting 1-0 up and had Willy Bolly and Ruben Neves and the late Diogo Jota, who we've mentioned, and just bossed it. But up with Wolves promoted were Cardiff, who really did play old school football with Warnock. And I think, the long throw-ins went in the box. They played it defensively. He did his man management masterclass with his never-ending charisma, as Mr. Warnock has done so many times for those 8 promotions. And they finished second. And they finished second ahead of a Fulham side playing really beautiful football under Slavica Jokanovic. And then in 2018-19, Bielsa and Farke and Wilder as well, actually. And all of a sudden, you had Farke, it's so hot in here. My hair's like sticking to me. That'll trigger the people who like to talk about my hair, won't it? You had Farke doing like 4-2-3-1s with midfield rotation and the fullbacks virtually in the other penalty area, and Emi Buendia taking the mick. Bielsa ball was just ridiculous, and that was asking EFL players to do incredible things, and they did it. And then Sheffield United with the much over talked about centre backs going down the outside of the wing backs and getting the overload there was so clever and so innovative. So I think that's where we've had the change. Yes, I've followed my team in League One, and I'm fully aware of what you mean about it being rudimentary. And it took Kieran McKenna, the Ipswich manager, a while to figure this out, that you couldn't just tippy-tap it around. You had to be robust. You had to kick it in the channel now and then. And you had to play a hybrid style where, I always quote Liam Richardson, who explained this to me really perfectly. You have to be able to play, but first you have to be able to run and you have to be able to fight. And you only get to play if you can run and fight. And if you can't do those first 2 things, you will finish below Rotherham, who were the masters of that League One style, and always would beat Ipswich. Even Ipswich had way bigger budget and probably better players, but Rotherham were just the killers at that League One style. So no, I think the Championship has evolved. I think the presence of the parachute payments and the ability for some Championship players to come down and still be paid the Premier League wage and that kind of level of quality. So I think it's improved for the better. Where am I going next? What's your take on who the biggest underperformers of the season will be? Oh my God. That's so difficult, footy boys, because you're asking me to predict a surprise before it's been a surprise. I suppose the crazy one last season was Luton, wasn't it? Parachute team getting relegated. I just don't see, even with the potential issues at Leicester, any of the parachute teams doing that. Someone's going to surprise us, aren't they? And, we're all expecting Birmingham to finish high up. I really like what Norwich are doing. Coventry are always there or thereabouts, aren't they? You've got Sheffield United as a spare parachute team in year 2. Middlesbrough always kind of punch their weight and are there or thereabouts, aren't they? So, it's much easier to predict, could you see Derby up there in the top 10 under Eustace, or will Blackburn surprise me again, or will Stoke finally get it right? Underperformer. Shall we say one of the parachute teams, could they finish outside the top 6? That's where we are with the bloody parachute teams now, isn't it? outside the top 6 is a gross underperformance. But yeah, let me know your thoughts in the comments on that. Sixer, what do you think would be a reasonable top price for Charlton to pay for a player? I'm rather confused, I tell thee. I mean, they keep going back to Luton for Reece Burkewell. We're going to do a transfer special over the weekend. Right, I'm done with drink now. I've got to survive the rest of this stream without it. Did I bring my bottle in? I did not. You wouldn't think Charlton would be going much over the £1 million bracket, and nor probably should they, and nor probably do they need to, because Nathan Jones is so shrewd and all on pattern of play. And if you can just get buy-in from players, you don't have to, throw millions and millions at it. So I don't know. I guess Charlton probably got quite a big transfer record from their days up in the Premier League, have they? But I don't think they'll be going anywhere near that. Planet Ball. Do you see there being a closer title race in the Premier League next season? Surely we won't get a procession in the Premier League. So Liverpool, they won't have it as easy, will they? Arsenal, you would think, might improve slightly, although I said that last season. And then Manchester City have Pep Guardiola and Haaland. They don't have De Bruyne anymore, do they? But yeah, surely we get a closer race. Will Hall. Would a Premier League 2, like Bundesliga 2, help smooth out the cliff edge, or would it just move the disparity down the pyramid to League 1? It's a great question, because, I mean, you're right. You can call the leagues whatever the hell you like if you don't get the distribution right. So even if you put a Premier League 2 in, and that was the only way of getting the Premier League to soften the blow, and what we'd be talking about then is your Premier League has, say, 12 teams, and your Premier League 2 has 12 teams. So essentially you add 4 in, but then maybe your Premier League 2 would be the equivalent of Parachute Land, where everyone got 50 million, so less of a cliff edge. Listen to what I'm saying. I'm about to say 100 million, so I'm still talking about double. Yeah, we just don't want any factors of 2 and factors of double. So yeah, as much as I've advocated for a Premier League 2 before, just my understanding of it is that really the only way, unless a regulator can control, how the TV money's distributed, which that'd be a legal battle, wouldn't it? I just think the only way is get rid of it, and the EFL dissolves into the Premier League, or the Premier League dissolves. Look, to be honest, the Premier League's not going to dissolve into the EFL, so it'd be the EFL dissolving into the Premier League, and we go back to Premier League 2, Division 3, Division 4, whatever they're going to be named, and you work on a sliding scale of distribution that not even goes down 1, 2, 3, 4 divisions, but just down to 92. Just slide it down like that, and we'll stop with this nonsense of relegation being the biggest disaster in the world, and promotion to the Premier League being like you've won the lottery. It should not be like that. Kelsey, who are your top 3 players in the Championship ever that you've watched? So live and in the flesh. Emi Buendia, he dominated the league twice. I'm not sure if I saw Tarab for QPR that season. I think I was kind of out being a musician at that time in my life. That's probably the best individual season, isn't it? Buendia. I always say Kevin Phillips is the best second-tier player of all time. If you go back before the Championship starts and look at what he did Premier League work with Sunderland, and then post with West Brom, and then he's still in the playoff finals with Blooming Blackpool and scoring the winner with Palace when he's 40 or something. So Buendia, Phillips. I've got to go for a defender, haven't I, or somebody a little bit further back. I don't know. Let's go for Willy Bolly, who never sprinted in his entire season for Wolves because he found it so easy playing in the Championship. So there you go, Bolly, Buendia, and Super Kevin Phillips. Red Wazzies. Will Phil Parkinson get sacked this season? He might. Mightn't he? I don't know. If Wrexham were in the bottom six, would they change? Let's say no. Let's hope the story continues and Wrexham are massively stable. But I guess the overarching narrative to that question is he going to be the manager to get them challenging in the Premier League, in the Championship, in the top half and pushing towards the playoffs to get into the Premier League? I don't know whether he will. I'd love to see him prove us wrong there. But I think they've got enough momentum for him to get through this season for sure. David, do you think Middlesbrough have a good shot at playoffs under Handsome Rob? And also considering we haven't made any signings yet, still early days. However, I really don't know. It's a real unknown quantity. There's big interest in Hackney, isn't there? So, I mean, that does two things. That takes a very good player out, but presumably raises money. Latte Lath leaving scuppered them a bit last season. And Handsome Rob is just I don't know. What on earth is going to be happening with him? Because he was golden, wasn't he, for Forest Green and then Luton, and had a pretty good crack at it in the Premier League with probably what we'll end up finding in 10 years was the lowest budget, out of probably 150 Premier League teams, wasn't it? So Gibson always pushes the boat out. I don't know. I just feel like the way the Championship goes, where you get your 3 parachute teams in year one every year, they're normally in the top 4, top 5, aren't they? And then you've got Sheffield United as well. And then you've got the added nuisance of Birmingham and like the look of Norwich and Coventry, as I've mentioned. And you've already named 6 or 7 teams there before you've got to Middlesbrough. And then that doesn't account for someone having a crazy season. Like I said, Stoke, Blackburn, Derby, just have an amazing season and win 25 games and they're in the playoffs, aren't they? So I don't know. I'm not sure they will. But when did Borough last in the playoffs? Was it under Tony Pulis? No, of course it wasn't. It was under Michael Carrick, wasn't it? So it wasn't that long ago with Akpom and Ramsey and Archer, and they lost to Coventry, didn't they? I'm not sure, but we will see. GG, how do you see Jack Clarke faring this season? Very well, fingers crossed. You would think that Jack Clarke is now settled at Ipswich. He was brilliant for Sunderland, and I will say about Sunderland, a lot of the game plan went through him, whereas you think there might be a little more balance there at Ipswich, you'll get a little less of the ball, whereas it was, right, switch the play, and get it to Clarke, and he can cut inside and swaz it in the corner like he always used to. But I think he's going to have a good season, Jack Clarke, and I think he's a bit of a Championship cheat code in the right circumstances. Ryan, what are my thoughts on the new Watford manager, Paolo Pezzolano? Do you think he'll do well? How do you think Watford has done in the transfer window? I'm a Watford supporter since 14-15. Been a season ticket holder since 2017. Now, nice one, Ryan. I mean, it's difficult, isn't it? The Pozzos are saying that they're going to take more of an interest in Watford and less of an interest in Udinese. I don't know. Does that mean anything? Does it? Could be anything, couldn't it? Cleverly did all right and then tailed off badly at the end of the season. But we just seen it with managers. I mean, look at what Regis Lebris did last season at Sunderland. I know maybe there was a bit of a better project there in terms of young talent already being at the club, but yeah, feels like Watford have got less in their squad than, well, you tell me, probably since they got promoted to the Premier League, which is probably 10 years or so ago. You know, they've done a bit of yo-yoing and now they are stabilised in the Championship. So, yeah. Let's move on. Callum Alston. Do I think Charlton will stay up? I need to think about this long and hard to do my 1 to 24s. Let me flip the question. Do you see a team managed by Nathan Jones being relegated? Probably not. Maybe Southampton under him in the Premier League might have. But hey, let me rephrase that question. Do you see an EFL team managed by Nathan Jones, being relegated? No, I don't. But that's me doing the thing that I always tell people not to do when they're looking at promotion or relegation. They look at only one team. And what you've got to do is you've got to say, well, who's going to be below Charlton? Name me those teams then. Who is going down? Answer that question alongside that, and then it becomes a bit more tricky to answer. People love going, oh, I support this team. They're going to finish in the top 6. Okay. Name all the other teams they're going to finish above then. Away you go and tell me why, and it becomes a bit more complex, doesn't it? Another Callum. Who do I think are the best 3 managers in the Championship, League 1 and League 2? Oh my God. That's far too tricky. I haven't dug into League 1 and League 2. Obviously, I will do in League 1 for my work with Matt SB on his League 1 predictions. So let me give the other 2 divisions a wide berth, and maybe you can ask me further down the road and you'll get a less fluffy answer. Championship, I mean, if I say Kieran McKenna, people will say, oh, you're only saying that because you're an Ipswich fan. But I still think the double promotion is something pretty spectacular. I know Chris Wilder's got a couple of promotions under his belt. I don't know. Sometimes you can reframe the question and say, if X job came up now, which Championship manager would be in there? Maybe it'd be Danny Roll. He seems eager to get out. There you go. I'll fudge the answer. I won't say Kieran McKenna because everyone will accuse me of saying that only because I support the team he manages. They would be wrong. But I will cede to them anyway and say, let's say Danny Roll. Why the hell not? I'll get the comments going, won't it? Are you looking forward to any of the returning derbies next season, Joseph? Which in particular? Yeah, obviously Southampton and Pompey is the one that we just have not seen for the longest time. Someone will tell me exactly how many years it's been. But no, I remember Harry Redknapp managing both of them when they were in the Premier League in the early noughties, but it hasn't been a thing for the longest time. So yeah, really pleased to have Southampton and Pompey coming back. JC Geography. Thoughts on Plymouth Argyle? Will they come back up next season? I will take my own warning that I shouldn't just discount the rest of League One. But other than hiring Wayne Rooney, Plymouth have been incredibly well run over the years. They've sold Ryan Hardy, which is a blow, isn't it? I like Tom Cleverley. I think there's a manager there. I think that's probably a much better hire than Rooney was. Let's be fair, Muslik was a good hire and he's got out the door double quick, hasn't he? So I won't tip Plymouth for promotion, but look, they're either going to be in the top 2 or losing playoff team or playoff winners or something of that nature. So they're going to be there or thereabouts for sure, aren't they? Dead or Alive, my 3 Dream Festival headliners. Oh my God, we're going music. Queen, doing like the Live Aid set. No, if you're headlining, you're doing an hour and a bit, aren't you? Beatles. And David Bowie. Although David Bowie did it, didn't he? He did the, was it 2004? Glastonbury? Did the greatest hits as the sun was setting. So maybe I should pick somebody else there. Shouldn't I? Who would put on a great show? Okay, let's go Vivaldi. Doing virtuoso violin and playing all of the 4 seasons or something. You didn't expect me to say that, did you? Deadpool. How many away games are you going to this season? What grounds you be going to? That's a difficult one because I've already answered about my career and about my priorities being with my family. So part of me has said to myself, I could even not go to any games for the entirety of next season, focus purely on YouTube and my family, not be away, and just do many more watch-alongs, which for my career would be the right thing to do. I know full well that will not happen. I don't have a season ticket at Ipswich next season. The first season in years. I'm now adjusting to the fact I've got a 3-year-old and it takes me, an hour and 40 minutes to get to an Ipswich game in an hour and 40 minutes to get back, and Ipswich sell far more tickets than they used to. When you used to be able to just saunter in, park up 10 minutes beforehand, walk to your seat, and happy days. There tends to be queues, and car parks are full now, but I'm sure I'll end up at games. So I think I am going to push the watch along side of it. The channel has just gone away from doing vlogs like I used to all the time, but I think it's nice to throw one in every now and then, maybe on like Tuesday night, Wednesday night games. That might be fun, but yeah, probably fewer than you'd imagine, but yeah, other priorities in life at the moment. James, do you have any idea when you might do new transfer for Eberechi Eze? Do you think he might stay at Palace or go to Arsenal? Dave, one of our good friends on the channel in the WhatsApp group, desperately wants Eze to go to Arsenal, so QPR get a load of money. I think he might go this summer, mightn't he? All I can remember is, who was that guy who played for Reading who also had a languid style and hair like Eze? I can't remember, but I can't remember his name. That's sad, isn't it? I remember Reading versus QPR being the battle of these two kind of gliding, silky midfielders, and it's Eze who's the one that's gone on to play for England and win the FA Cup and become a Premier League regular. What was that bloody guy's name who played centre mid for Reading? He was really good for a while, but he's just dropped off, unfortunately for him. But no, I think he will leave Palace this summer, which would be lovely for our friends down at QPR. Another Birmingham question. If Birmingham don't get promotion or at least playoffs, do you think they will follow the culture and change the manager or give him another season? I know what I think they should do, and unless their perfect manager who could manage them in the Premier League becomes available, I think they should keep him, and I think they should play the long game. I think there's more to gain by keeping somebody and making a potential change in the Premier League than there is by changing beforehand, unless they've got their idea of, we want this guy to manage us in the Premier League, and they feel like he becomes available or they can get him while they're still in the Championship. I think if you score 111 points in a season, albeit with what we imagine is going to be a gigantic spend, that you buy yourself a season of credit. And I mean, look, what would be my tipping point? If Birmingham are 16th next season, then I think Chris Davies has probably failed. But even if they were 10th and they were trending in the right direction and looking like things were moving forward and they were PSR compliant and they were building stars and building talent and establishing themselves ready for a tilt, look, Knighthead are going to expect it quickly, but I don't think you can expect it in season one, and I don't think the manager should be removed as a binary result of not being promoted. I mean, for God's sake, what happens if they get to the playoff semi-finals and lose to a parachute team? That's not a failure, is it? That's par, or probably better than par. So, no, I don't think it's a binary on promotion. I think it depends exactly what he does and how they don't get promoted, and who's the guy they think can manage them in the Premier League, and can they get him there and then? Good question. Richard, can you see the chaos at Leicester carrying them straight through and following Luton into League One? No, I don't think that. I think the chaos will continue, but I think they will have a bit too much. I mean, to be fair, we saw something at Sunderland, but the owner left and took all the parachute payments with him. Huddersfield, we had a similar thing, but they survived, didn't they, even with the parachute payments. Luton is just a weird one, isn't it? Because it doesn't feel like they were badly run, but it feels like they didn't leverage the advantage you get from being in the Premier League, which is you got way more money than everybody else. Whereas Leicester, the owners have been a bit nonsensical lately, maybe over a 5-year period, but they still push, don't they? I mean, they pushed so hard that they didn't hand their accounts in and managed to find a jurisdiction angle and win a promotion and, have another year in the Premier League and the advantages now that brings. But, yeah, I don't think it's going to be plain sailing for, we think it's going to be Marti Cifuentes. But, no, Clip me out. I've been wrong many times. I can't see Leicester double relegation. No. Gary, do you think the football authorities are doing enough to protect clubs with their due diligence and new ownership? And do you think there should be tough rules to stop clubs overspending? It's a great question, Gary. I sense from your question you feel that they probably could do more. With the due diligence, I do think what more can they do other than put money in trust and in bond beforehand? So the money's there. So if Mr. Chansiri or Mr. Ilachali is in trouble now, that there's 3 months of money in there. So nobody gets paid late. And the second they have to access those funds, it's like you're on probation and you're out in 3 months' time. And we're looking at suitors now, and you have to sell it as a going concern. It's a compulsory purchase, or whatever the correct wording would be. So we've discussed that as the only thing. Overspending, they're trying their hardest, and the tension you're always going to get with overspending is, it doesn't matter how many rules you're going to put in, people will try and break them and stretch them and push them because they want to win. So yes, of course they could do more, but it's hard, and they're doing a lot at the moment, and they deserve some sympathy because they're going up against people who are quite arrogant, quite arrogant sometimes, very rich and very competitive, and are finding loopholes in everything they put in. They'll try and find a loophole, won't they? So, or as Kieran Maguire said, one man's loophole is another man's rule. And as some of the Leicester fans, some of them more churlishly than others pointed out, we didn't break any rules, which is an objective fact, isn't it? If they can get punished. Footy predictions. Our League One predictions with Matt SB going to return next season. Yes, absolutely. I love doing that show with Matt, and there should be something else with Matt, fingers crossed, that we will be working on. Battle POT. Which Premier League players do you think could be prime loan targets for Championship clubs this window? I mean, it's only youth players and youngsters now, isn't it? They're the only ones you can get. The wages are so massive, it makes no sense for Premier League clubs to, unless you can do like a Harry Wilson deal like Fulham did, or the deal Zian Fleming. I know he wasn't the Burnley did with Zian Fleming, where you kind of loan them, but you're going to buy them, and it's either guaranteed or there's an obligation if you get promoted. So I just feel that it'll only be Cat 1 academy players in the Premier League that'll have some chance. I know we'll get the odd player who might be an older player, but I just feel the chasm in wages kind of makes it impossible. One of the best loan signings I've ever seen is Jim Magilton to Ipswich. And Ipswich just got him on loan for Sheffield Wednesday, and he was immediately absolutely brilliant. And then they managed to sign him. It was just incredible. But yeah, that feels very, very rare these days. Tom, the FA have sacked Thomas Tuchel and made a brave decision to appoint the untested Benjamin Bloom as England manager ahead of the World Cup. If it started tomorrow, oh my God, what would my starting 11 be? Can you imagine if I was the England manager? The first person I would hire would be a damn good coach to do all the tactics for me, so I can just be the Warnock and just be the front of it, the face of it, and charisma. Oh dear, I'd need to think about this greatly. Well, obviously Harry Kane would be my striker. Or would I only pick players that have graduated from the EFL? So Grealish and Eze, although Grealish started in the Premier League, really, didn't he? Gahey. Have to be Pickford, wouldn't it? Gibbs White. Oh, it's too difficult. I'd need the whole best list of English players. But yeah, I wouldn't be as conservative as Southgate was, if that's an answer to the question. HK Toffees, Everton. Would you expect Everton to finish in the top half next season? I wouldn't expect it. I know Moyes had them doing top half form when he came in. That felt like a little bit of a bounce, didn't it? No, I think they'll be just slightly below it, but that's okay. isn't it? Especially given Man United and Spurs were so god-awful last season. And then you had Newcastle and Aston Villa improving. And, you know, the likes of Brentford, Fulham and Bournemouth are good now. And they're part of the 17 and Forest. So I'm going to say no. I wouldn't be surprised by it, but I wouldn't expect it. Is that okay? Is this Ipswich's most talented championship squad? Here's a question then. Was Ipswich's squad that got relegated under George Burley in the championship? It wasn't. So yes, because the championship wasn't called the championship when the squad with Matt Holland, Marcus Stewart, Finidi George, Thomas Gardso, Darren Ambrose, Darren Bent, that would have probably been more talented in my humble opinion. But in terms of a championship squad, this is by a country mile of the most talented. And they're probably going to do a few more bits. So I'm sure that'll end in absolute disaster, won't it, me saying that? But hey, I've got to tell the truth to you guys, give my opinion. Which football team do you hate the most? Oh, man. Now, people think this is a front that I put on about hating football teams. I genuinely don't hate any football teams. Maybe it's because I'm a grown-up. No offence, anyone. Maybe it's because my dad supports Norwich. So, therefore, if I call Norwich fans scum, which I don't think is appropriate, I'm calling my own father scum. I love my father. I can't do that. So, yeah, for me, if you're having a bit of fun, you know, how's you be? We're winning away. It's a bit of fun on the terrace. That's not hatred, is it? Am I going to get a fight over football? Maybe when I was younger, I would have. When I was a kid, I probably did hate football teams. Probably hated Charlton when they beat Ipswich in the playoffs, but that's not hate. That's just jealousy and envy because they were better and they won. So I've hated some fans of some teams, and I've had some horrible interactions with Norwich fans who can't cope with the fact that I'm not going to play the silly game and they're going to be horrible and insulting. But that's their issue and not the football club. Football clubs are great institutions that mean a hell of a lot to a hell of a lot of people. And even when there's issues, it's often not the club. It's the owner who's doing the stupid things or some moronic fans. So, honest to God, this is not a front and a gimmick I play to keep the YouTube subscribers happy. I don't hate any club. I hate the behaviour of some fans and the way some fans have treated me and some people in the comments have treated me. But no, I can safely differentiate. I do not hate any football team. Ricky, can Preston get automatics with all their new signings? I don't want to laugh. That would be a hell of an achievement, wouldn't it? Preston are one of these teams who are kind of stuck in the middle of the championship with the Hemmings family propping them up for the losses, and the signings are in the main free signings and loanees. Well, I think they spent a bit on the guy from Brighton whose name I'm forgetting right here, right now. But no, I don't think Preston will get automatics. And I tell you what, if they do, Ricky, DD, if you're a Preston fan, I'm going to do a lot. I'll do a sponsored standing ovation. We'll do it for charity every, I was going to say every pound. Let's say every tenner anyone donates, I'll give a standing ovation for a minute for Preston getting automatics. Adam, your knowledge of the championship seems vast. Thank you. How often do you spend watching football on average in a week? Now, let's do a Charlie Munger or Warren Buffett quote. Never underestimate the power of compounding over time. So I don't watch that much football, but I have watched the same. By the way, Warren Buffett and Charlie Munger are famous investors. And I listened to a podcast by a guy called David Senra called Founders Podcast, which is really, really interesting. And Warren Buffett and Charlie Munger were the subject of one of the podcasts. I think I listened to it twice. I was so fascinated by this idea that in life, you don't need to watch 18 hours of football every day. I mean, maybe if you want to be Bielsa, you do. But if you want to have a YouTube channel, just watch a couple of matches a week, but do it for 7 or 8 years. And that's what I've done. I've focused on the same league for so long. So it's not how much football I've watched. And it's up to you whether you think my knowledge is vast or not. It's very flattering. But this week alone, I've probably made 5 videos about the Championship if I do one every day. Okay, that's not spectacular in itself. But I've done it for 5 or 6 years now. So my knowledge has just accumulated. I remember talking to Ali Maxwell about this. Brilliant Ali from Not the Top 20. And I said, how do you do it, mate? How do you do it because he does Championship, League One and League Two. So he's got 72 teams rather than 24, whereas me with the Championship. And he said, just do it for a long time. You can't just immediately know about 72 teams, but you can spend a long time studying. And yes, 3 come in from up and 3 come in from down every year. But my God, the 3 that have come down, Ipswich, Leicester and Southampton, I covered 2 seasons ago. And as you probably realise, I know a fair amount about Ipswich because I support them. And who's come up this year? Birmingham, covered them absolutely tons, and they are a massive news story. Wrexham I know less about, don't know. Charlton, covered them plenty over the years on the channel. So, yeah, thank you for saying that. But what did Charlie Munger say? Never underestimate the power of incremental, I think he uses the word compounding gains. And the more you watch for the more years, the more knowledge you'll kind of accumulate, the more you'll forget as well. But there you go. Oh, another Birmingham one. Comic Buyer. What do you think the chances of Birmingham City doing back-to-back promotions like Ipswich did? The chances are high because I believe in Father Christmas. Completely distracted me. Who sung that? I can't even remember. Great Christmas song, that. Oh, it's going to bug me now. Comments, please. I believe in the power of momentum, which Birmingham have. They just scored 111 points. I also believe that the parachute teams have a huge advantage, but they don't in the first 6 weeks in terms of churn of squad and pattern of play. And 2 of the parachute teams are going to have new managers. So that pattern of play will be way behind Birmingham's. I believe in the power of money, and Birmingham have loads of it, and they seem to have some very, very smart people, managing things and, looking at the PSR side of it, and they seem to be across all of that. And we literally just saw it, didn't we? I must admit, and it happened to my team. I know Norwich did it and Southampton did it, but they did it before the parachute era made it so difficult that it has to be absolute lightning in a bottle. And then Ipswich did it. And it's like, oh, so the dream is real. That it's not just who's got the most money. And by the way, Birmingham, we've got plenty of that. But if you get on a run, if you establish a pattern of play that scores you 111 points, remember, Ipswich didn't score 111 points, but they did win like 8, 9, 10 on the trot and finish like an absolute Lamborghini and then start like an absolute Lamborghini train. Lamborghinis probably break down quite a lot, don't they? Because they're so technical. I don't know. Not doing very well with my analogies here on this, am I? But Ipswich proved the point that maybe still in the Championship, even with the parachute payments, and look, Leicester did it in the Premier League, didn't they? You can do it just on a damn good coach and a damn good football team. Luck plays a part. Maybe I was a bit prickly about people calling Ipswich lucky at the time. Maybe I took offence at that. But if luck is on your side and you don't get bad injuries and, things start to roll for you, and then the luck grows the confidence, and the confidence grows the luck, which grows the results, which grows the confidence, which grows the luck, and we're Charlie Munger compounding gains once more. Birmingham could do it. Would I be surprised if I was sat here and Birmingham have had the most incredible double promotion season? No, I wouldn't be surprised at all. They've got everything set up to be able to do it. Of course it's going to be hard. Of course. And people are asking me now, will it be a failure if Birmingham don't get promoted? Of course not. Just come out of League One and not done anything tangible in the Championship for absolutely years. But they're back and they've got a hell of a fair wind behind them. And they've got a hell of a chance. And the other thing people mention to me is, can you even up Birmingham and Leicester now? Leicester have got the parachute money, but is there a sanction? Sheffield United have changed managers. Ipswich, a big churn. Liam Delap out. They need to build a new central midfield. Can Kieran McKenna go again? Will Still. First big job here in English football. Can Birmingham get a run on them? Can Birmingham be there with 44 points from the first 20 games and give themselves that run? And one more thing I'll mention about Birmingham, which David Prutton mentioned. It's a hell of a noisy stadium. And we talk about intangibles. Can you leverage your home form? Can you make it impossible for people to show up at St Andrews and win a game? If they do all of those things, then they'll get promoted. They will. Because that's the perfect storm I've just described. They'll win the league if all of those things happen. So, yeah, it could happen. It could happen. Roaster, I'm nearly there. I'm so close to the end. Who is the biggest non-league team? Are Chesterfield still down? Who won the non-league playoffs? It was Cookie and Chesterfield. No, are they League 2? I'm wrong about that, aren't I? Sorry, I'm being an idiot. Chesterfield lost to Walsall and Sam's mate, didn't they? Who are the biggest non-league team? Crikey, I don't know the answer. What I do know is a couple of great friends of mine, Scott and Patty, support Boreham Wood. So I'll just give them a shout out. Boreham Wood, there we go. Daniel Bedford, do you laugh about the Sheffield Wednesday situation when you're not doing your channel? I don't know what you mean, Daniel. As in, do I take enjoyment out of it being absolutely chaotic and I'm lying when I'm on the channel? No, I don't do that. Do I laugh in despair sometimes and go, geez, Chansiri, you're a blooming buffoon some of the time. What are you doing? Yeah. But no, because I think we spoke about empathy with reference to my hair, and I can see another bloody hair comment coming up. I have empathy for people, and I know that football clubs mean a lot to people, and I find Schadenfreude quite ugly, the delighting in other people's discomfort. That's just, I'm not a sociopath, and I have empathy, so no, I don't laugh. My team went into administration in 2002, and they basically didn't recover for 15 years, and I know football's not the most important thing in life, but the quote about it being the most important, unimportant thing is kind of true. Means a lot to people, and that made a lot of people very sad for a long time. So I know we got the happiness paid back with a double promotion, but it took a while. It took new owners, took a lot of managers and a lot of players, and we got our club back. But yeah, hopefully Sheffield Wednesday will get their club back. But no, I don't find it funny. And I'm not being all pious on screen. I mean, for God's sake, I've done enough live streams. This is the thing about being on the internet. And some people have called me a fraud before, like I'm doing some kind of act. I've been on here for years now, and I do these streams where they last 2.5 hours in terms of a live game. Can you imagine what a skilled actor I would have to be to BS my way through this? And some people think I'm a liar. They do. They say, oh, he can't be that down the middle. He can't be that nice to Norwich, being an Ipswich fan. And it's like, if you think it's fake, I'm not saying Daniel thinks it's fake, but if you think it's fake, what can I do? I know it's not, and all I can do is keep doing what I do, and then would 10 years worth of me calling it down the middle be enough? Maybe not. Maybe not for some people. I don't know. But no, I don't find it funny. People being very unhappy. And also, fair enough, Barry Bannon is a rich, 35-year-old guy. He's probably a multi-millionaire if he's saved his money well from football. Deserved. He's 0.01 percentile of talent for playing football, isn't he, of people who have ever lived. So he deserves it. So if he doesn't get paid, maybe he's okay making the mortgage. Maybe he's not. Maybe, it can be difficult and people have expenses and people have lives. And rich people, sportsmen, have families to look after. And often when you see about sportsmen going bankrupt, I'm saying Barry Bannon's going bankrupt, by the way. But when you hear about sportsmen, it's because they spent all their money because they were working class and they bought the whole street a new house and they're still paying for it. And all of a sudden the money doesn't come and they default. But Donna, who works, in marketing, if she doesn't get paid, that's a problem. Because she's living paycheck to paycheck and she's got to hit the mortgage payment. And if I just got none of my money for a month, I'm going to my parents or Shaylee's parents and saying, guys, I haven't been paid. I'm really sorry, I've done my work. Can you lend me some money to pay my mortgage? Or the mortgage company's coming after me. So it's pretty serious when it comes to staff that don't get paid into the millions per year, certainly the hundreds of thousands. It's pretty serious. So no, I don't find it funny, and hopefully people don't think I'm a fake on here. Some people accuse me of sitting on the fence when I'm trying to be balanced, or when I'm answering something that's complex and I refuse to answer it with a simplistic binary answer. And I know sometimes I put polls up on YouTube and I do a razor. I do a yes or no. It's a poll. You don't have to vote. You can put a comment underneath saying, Ben, this is too nuanced to do a yes or no. Fine. But I try and tell the truth, address complex issues with complex answers, which are not yes, no, binary, up, down, black, white, whatever. Gone off on a rant. I'm doing so well, and I know there's only one question remaining. It's 28 outside. I've got the lights on, I've got the door shut, and I've done nearly an hour and 20 for this Q&A, but I love it. And it is appropriate that Dark Blue Man, for the last question, asks, when you getting a haircut? To be fair, Craig, who has answered down here, why on earth would he need one? The blokes with long hair make you insecure. There you go, he's done my bidding for me. But I discussed this earlier in the video, and I'm going to do a separate clip, so maybe I'll just post the clip underneath. But yeah, let's not talk about my hair anymore than needs to be spoken about, which is kind of never. Guys, you are amazing. Thank you for all of the brilliant questions. We'll stick some clips out. It'll probably be... Do you know what? I'll peel back the curtain here. Do you peel back a curtain or you pull back a curtain? I'll pull back the curtain here. I was going to do Q&A this morning when it was a bit cooler. And then I was going to do a clip and then release it tomorrow morning. But because I woke up and that excellent guy from The Athletic wrote a good report on Hull City. I did a video about Hull. So I'm one video behind with all of this. So we did an extra one there. So maybe it will come out tomorrow lunchtime or tomorrow night or something. And we'll hopefully be back with a transfer update for Sunday. But guys, thank you so much for watching. Again, I'll put the Easter egg in. If you survived all the way to the end, and lots of people commented me saying, yeah, I survived to the end. It is so flattering that when it is literally just opinion, it's just my opinion, the Q&As, that you're happy to listen and you're happy to ask. It is so humbling, so flattering. I'm not just talking about what's going on at Hull, where people are interested in Hull. Not interested in what I've got to say. I want a conversation about Hull. I get it, but Q&A, it's so flattering that people want to hear what I've got to say. And I'm so grateful for the questions and so happy to give you all the answers. Let's keep this going into the season. And let's go over and out on another wonderful Q&A conversation.